Join the Rocky Mountain RepRap Fest 2026. Thank you very much. I hope everyone went to the Death Racers and just wasn't paying attention for the first 2 rounds and paid all the attention in the 3rd round. Because I did. Because if you did, then I was kicking ass the whole time. It was great. Yeah, hi everyone. Oh, it's still 1:58. I started introducing myself too soon. I'm starting to think people here might know who I am already. Never even really considered that. Okay, yeah, might as well get started. All right, ladies, gentlemen, and cyborgs, have you ever finished a project? It's okay, you could be honest. If you did finish a project, do you wish people cared about the project? Do you wish people cared so much about the project they would make your project too? Maybe even care enough to like show you the pics of the project they made based off your project. I know what that feels like. Wait, there we go. You have to see both arrows, they're very important. Do you wish people would make your last project their next project until others made that their next project, and then it metastasizes into a meta project of projects so compelling that non-project making people start making projects just to make that project? My name is Zack Freedman. I have a YouTube channel. I used to be a prototype developer. I have a business degree, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. However, for possibly the first time in my entire life, I get to say the following sentence with absolute honesty. And I might never get to say it again, so let me savor the moment. Oh, yeah. I am completely qualified to explain this topic. I created Gridfinity, the 3D printed modular organizer system, and while I'm not totally sure how I would go about quantifying this, I suspect Gridfinity could be the most remixed 3D model ever released that is not a boat. Everyone in this room walked past a dozen Gridfinity setups as they came in here. And I wouldn't be surprised if most of the owners of those systems don't even know I exist, let alone that I'm involved with the project. I consider this to be an honor and a privilege. I'll explain this later. I also make videos featuring models that other people have made that anyone can print, so I'm actually on the other side of this equation too. So when I explain how I set up Gridfinity to get popular, which I really didn't, more importantly, I'm explaining how I pick the things that I use my channel to try to make popular. These tips will not work if you're trying to make money. You will just look like an aspect of hustle culture instead of a real human. I'm not allowed to swear on stage, which means all I am thinking about is swearing on stage. I wish I could bleep myself in real life. It's odd how being able to like redact swearing makes you able to swear more. Yeah, real perverse incentive there. This also won't help you build a reputation. I can help your model get popular, but not you. I am giving a PowerPoint presentation at a 3D printing convention using a bootleg Google Glass. I am not the one to ask if you want to get popular. At the end of the day, people looking at a model only care about the model. The creator's name is flavor text. They only put this button here to like make you dream. It's like how the casino hangs a Lamborghini over the slot machines. Granny might have driven in a $12,000 Subaru, but she's going home in a $100,000 bus. So if you can't make money and if you can't gain clout, then why would you care if anyone prints your model? Because making projects is fun. Seeing other people have fun is fun. And seeing others having fun, making the thing you have fun making, is really fun. This is how to make the makes you've made, making makers, make them their next make, and hopefully make them even better. There are 2 main reasons why you would want others to make your projects, right? Like you might want to see people making your thing. You might want people to remix your thing. Each of these is really 2 sub-reasons. Like, oh wait, I advanced too far. You might just want to give back to the community. You might be hoping a specific person will shout you out. You might hope the world will improve your project, which is actually a very good assumption. Or you could be hoping to make the next Gridfinity. Not a project, but an ecosystem. These overlap a lot, so consider this more of like a structure to focus your... You could really do the, do this for no matter what your incentive is. But like, the point is, don't get distracted chasing something you never cared about in the first place. But no matter what your goal is, there's one bedrock principle you should keep in mind. There is a huge demand for models of all kinds. Here are the top 167 models on printables by number of makes. I really wanted to get at 169, but I just couldn't figure out how to get the last two in there. The ones outlined in blue are practical models, like things with real-life use cases. The ones in red are useless knickknacks that clutter up the planet for a certain definition of fun. The point is, no matter what you're making, there's somebody else who would be interested in making it. There's no excuse not to share, right? Insecurity is not an excuse. And neither is who cares about this overly specific model. It's so overly specific, who else could possibly need it? You'd be surprised. Here's a replacement hot swap hard disk caddy I designed for this trash tier server chassis that I'm fairly sure was discontinued at the time. I only uploaded it because I used it as a demo for a video about how to copy things and make spare parts. I didn't really expect anyone to actually make it, but at least 2 people did, and they took the time to upload multiple photos. And a bunch more people in the comments said they used it too, and judging from the fact that not a single one of them had a single positive thing to say about the case I modded, I'm guessing they were telling the truth. This particular one is particularly interesting because it's a Dell case, but I designed the hard drive caddies to fit Rosewell cases. Rosewill. This is a case mod that lets a Dell chassis mount Rosewill brand hot swap sleds. But since Rosewill no longer makes the sleds, my spare parts gave this old model as well as the PC it revives a whole new life. And I think that's pretty cool. You never know how the world is going to respond to your creations. Things aren't cause and effect. People don't get what they deserve. The universe is made of probability, and all you get to do is try to rig the odds. You can do everything right and still fail. And you can do everything wrong and still succeed. These are all comments on my original Gridfinity project on things. Doing everything right puts more 20s on the dice. But ultimately, you have to roll the dice. And if your objective is to hit a 20, you just have to keep on rolling. What I'm saying is, finish more projects and share the projects. And for crying out loud, don't share your files on sites where people go to find 3D files. Like, don't put your stuff only on GitHub. Don't put your stuff only on Patreon, and certainly don't put your stuff on only your own website. If your model is not on a model hosting site, you might as well just delete it, because even if people somehow find it, they're not going to trust it. I believe 80% of why Gridfinity ended up beating its predecessor, ModuBox, was because that system's creator only hosted it on his own site. This brings us to the first and most important recommendation for getting people to make your stuff. Make your stuff easy to find. I put 5 exclamation points on it so you know I'm not fooling around. Folks are going to find your model in one of 2 ways, right? A, they're searching for it. Or B, it gets presented to them. You don't have a lot of control over that second one because it's ultimately up to the distribution platform to decide what they show people. But we're going to talk about how you can maybe nudge those odds a little in the Notice Me Senpai section. But you absolutely can make your thingamajig easier to find. And if you just want to see a few people make the thing you work so hard on, this is a really good place to focus. To help people find your model, we are going to dust off a turn of the millennium internet marketing playbook. It worked back when tech billionaires were only tech 100 millionaires, and it works for 3D models in 2026 because the search engines on 3D model sites are really, really, really stupid. These aren't doing semantic parsing and fuzzy logic and generative deep learning on the blockchain. They're comparing text and showing pictures like it's 2001, and you can use that to your advantage. Search engine optimization in 2026, there really is nothing new under the sun. Work in as many relevant searchable keywords as possible into your title and your description. Make sure they're all relevant, because as unsophisticated as these things are, yeah, there we go. Like these sites will detect if you try to stuff too many keywords in your description, and they'll disqualify you. I'm walking too far away, and I'm going to rip this thing off my face. What else? Oh yeah, you want to have specifics about. Like you want your description title to have lots of specifics and lots of generalities. Sometimes folks are going to have a specific make and model of a thing they are searching for, and I advanced too far. And sometimes they're just looking for something to solve some problem. You want keywords for the problem and the solution. And a good way to figure this out is to ask yourself, what were you searching for? What were you searching for when you came up with this idea, to see if anyone else made it, right? Because you saw if you could download it before you put hours into making it yourself, right? Like you wouldn't spend days making something you could just download, right? Images. These are absolutely crucial because people will only read the description after they see a relevant picture. Make sure somebody can figure out what's going on any tiny thumbnail. Remember, most people are browsing on their phone, so there's not a lot of real estate to sell your thing. And I use sell in a very loose sense. Don't put text in it. Like, first off, it's going to be too small to read, but it also muddies the message. You want to make sure the pic shows the item in action, right? Like, it doesn't look like a banana protector if you can't see the banana. You also can no longer use rendered images for your models. You must print it and you must take a photo. Losers are just uploading too many AI slop models that are literally unprintable. Like, these people are so lazy, not only are they not designing the model, they're not even testing to see if it's printable before they upload it. People have clued into this, and if you don't put a real life photo on it, people are just gonna think it's baloney. I personally used to get away with this, but we just can't have nice things anymore. This is an example of how to do it right. It's distinctive, it's self-explanatory, it's, dare I say, iconic. Even at this teeny-weeny size, it's immediately obvious that what you're getting is some kind of two-part medieval defense system for your fragile fruit. However, not done with this section, you also don't want to make your thing look like something it's not. This is a real shame. It's a 12-part print that uses flexible filament for fastening and structural reinforcement, and so it doesn't need any hardware. This thing is pure filament. It's an incredibly clever design. Let's move on before this awakens things in the audience. Your title has to portray two things: what it is and what it does. Specifically, when I say what it does, specifically, it's why you would pick this one instead of an alternative. It's what does it do different? The title text is going to get truncated, so keep it focused. Like, I'll explain why I named my organizer Gridfinity in a later section, but on the whole, you should not name your submissions to 3D file hosts. It takes away space that would be better spent explaining what it is and why you should pick this one instead of other things that do the same thing. Do not put clever clutter in your title. Don't put your own name in the title. Don't use worthless words. You're not Joss Whedon, unless you are Joss Whedon, in which case, get the hell out of my presentation. And I want to make this very, very clear. If you begin your title with the words "yet another," I will personally drop an anvil directly on your head. If you then abbreviate the title with the "yet another" in the abbreviation, forget the anvil. I want to use my bare hands. Projects are pure self-expression, but the title is pure utility. Your project's title is not part of your project. It's how people find the project. So don't try to be clever, just be smart. Like, what does it do? Why pick this one? If that takes a lot of words, use a lot of words. If it doesn't, don't. What is it? What does it do? That's all people need to figure out whether they want to make your model, assuming your picture is good too. If you do this right, you can actually promote your model so effectively. It gives non-printing people a reason to start printing. Our dog Millie peed on the floor, so Brooke busted out the carpet cleaner, but the little cleaning tool was missing. So Brooke searched the model number, and this print right here came right up. The picture was so clear, she immediately knew it was the right item. A few clicks and 20 minutes later, and yeah, I bet the creator made this purely for himself, never imagining anyone would actually download it. But this, I think his author's name was Codebender. He saved our bacon. This thing extracted every moist wad of pea-soaked human hair just as well as the original. You right there in the front row, you have a souvenir. Fooled you. I actually did bring one. I was supposed to throw it, and I forgot to bring it with me. So yeah, those were the general tips that apply to the whole wolf pack of motivations. Now we're going to meet each individual sub-wolf and learn how to throw them a more specific bone. Most people who share their projects do so really because they have no reason not to, right? The beauty of 3D printing is if you design something just for yourself to use, it doesn't cost you anything to share it with other people. But the motivation and validation you can get from seeing other people make your stuff, especially when they compliment you on it, is so powerful. Investing that little bit of time to get a few downloads will pay massive dividends and motivation over your maker career. If you struggle with finishing projects, does anyone here struggle with finishing projects? I'm just kidding. You all struggle with finishing projects. Knowing that when you post it, there's a decent chance that some people will go like, hey, this is pretty useful. This is pretty neat. Seeing pictures of other people making it, that can be that last push you need to take it over the edge. If you're just mising it, which is when you say might as well post it, I can't say do something wee ball because they're kids. My best advice is to streamline the project to eliminate every trace of confusion. This here is pretty much as confusing as you should ever allow yourself to go. You don't want a potential maker to ever have to think about your project. Don't make me think. Right? It's a principle called Don't Make Me Think that I learned in a book called Don't Make Me Think. Steve Krug's thesis is that in the modern era, people are so stressed, under so much pressure, and so generally overburdened by existence. If a task looks like it could need thought or effort, if they even have to think about how much thought or effort it might need, they'll just say screw it. And this book was written like 20 years ago. This goes extra super duper hard for 3D models because for most people, the printer is a toy, right? They only use it after they've been tapped out by work and family, and they barely have the bandwidth to make any decisions, so don't make them think. This is why throwaway models are so popular. Like, they seem friendly and approachable, even if they turn out to actually be hard to assemble, and something this goofy is not going to require anyone to make any engineering decisions. They don't make you think. I'm not saying dumb your projects down. I'm saying make your projects obvious. This is why a good title and a clear pick are so important. If they have to think about whether this is the model that they, think they should print, they're just not going to print it. This is also why I don't recommend posting the same model to multiple sites or posting multiple variants of the same model. Yes, it will goose your numbers, but you're throwing the train into the furnace, right? Like, people are seeing multiple versions of the same thing on the list, right? It forces people to pick between nearly identical or possibly identical entries. Yes, they could resolve this by just thinking, hey, if these things are so similar, I can't even tell them apart, I could just pick any of them and it'll be equally good. But people don't work that way, right? Like, we all insist on picking the best thing, even if it doesn't matter and we can't tell the difference. And if we can't pick the best one, we pick nothing at all. A good description is also a must. You should provide all the information they'll need to feel confident jumping in and figuring it out later. I call this the 1 hour rule. You want people to think, oh, hey, I could totally bang this out in 1 hour. It doesn't matter if your thing can actually be banged out in an hour. Nothing can be banged out in an hour. We all think everything can be banged out in an hour. Literally everything, all of us do. We do because we thought we could do it in an hour. We do these things not because they are easy, but because we thought they would be easy. You have to be especially careful to include detailed instructions and a comprehensive bill of materials, including any special tools you'll need. You got to have the instructions to make them think about how to put it together. And notice how the parts are links. You don't even want them to have to think about whether the thing they search for on Amazon is the right thing. But too much text gets overwhelming, so use bold italics and bullets to draw attention to a small number of key points. The goal here is to make them read a tiny fragment of the description, because when we read a tiny piece of a text, we think we understand the whole thing, right? Like, if this weren't true, people on Twitter would read the article before commenting on the headline. If your model requires assembly, text instructions are necessary because not everyone will follow a picture. But pictorial instructions are also necessary because not everyone will read text. As weird as this sounds coming from a guy who makes videos for a living, I don't recommend making video instructions. Decent ones are just too hard to make, and crappy ones are worse than useless. For each step, you want to provide a doing the thing shot and a the thing is done shot. There we go. Naming the files themselves can also make a big difference. Picking which files to print and how to print them can be a massive pinch point that makes people ditch your project at the very last second. I consider Voron 3D printers to be the platonic ideal of good file names. Their file names are so good, they can get away with hosting their files on GitHub, which is usually a death sentence. They are just that good. The files are grouped into subassemblies, which are grouped by which step of the assembly guide tells you how to use them. They're clearly but concisely named with consistent identifiers to tell them apart, and they even tell you which parts to print in the accent color if you want that little bit of extra pizzazz. This is perfection. This can be a real pain in the tuchus, but doing a little design for printing can also really go a long way, right? The easier your thing is to print, the more likely folks will print it. Remember, for many people, if the print fails, they will give up. They'll never try again, even if it failed because it was their fault. The less manual intervention is necessary, the more folks are going to follow through. This cheat sheet by Billy Rubin is an excellent starting point. Scan the QR code now or forever hold your peace. 5, 4, 3, I'm bored. At the very least, have the decency to orient your parts so they're ready to print. I, A, hate it when I download a bunch of models and I have to friggin' figure out which side to put each one on, and B, I do this for literally every project I release. Even if it doesn't look necessary, the number of times this has screwed up my prints is way too high. I realized it might not be clear what's going on here, but this thing looks like it's sitting flat against the plate, but it's actually at a very, very slight angle, so that happens. All right, so now if you're looking for a specific maker to make your project, right, like especially some with a platform, you have to do all that previous stuff and more. Content creators like myself only feature models we're pretty confident people are going to build. Now, I want to be clear, desiring someone who you consider important to notice is not narcissism, right? Like, seeing your hard work get the stamp of approval from a public figure is unambiguous proof that you are good enough, right? Like, it's a rare jolt of validation that's especially meaningful and motivating to marginalized makers, especially who've been made to feel unwelcome in maker circles. So it is completely okay, in my opinion, to want somebody to, notice you. So personally, I look for flashy models that read well on camera, especially those that are at least a little pragmatic. People really want to nail me for encouraging people to print garbage. Also, I think a lot of people use my videos to justify their hobby to their partners, maybe even themselves. But above all else, what I look for is this. This is it. Model that anybody can print. Anybody being defined as someone with a Prusa i3 who doesn't mess with default settings, only prints in PLA. If your model does not do any of those things, or rather if your model does any of those things not, it's much harder for me to recommend them. Excellent instructions are also mandatory. I cannot recommend a project unless I'm confident my viewers can make it. This infamous lamp is very hard to print and very hard to build, but the instructions are missing. However, it still became the headline build for a video about obnoxious models. I bring this up because, yes, having a model that's simple for other people to make is great, but what we want more than anything is character, personality. Even if your thing sucks, we'll feature it if it sucks in an interesting way. If you have to be good but bland, it's a bad trade. You might have noticed I haven't yet mentioned anything about how to put your project in front of a creator, and that's because you shouldn't. I received nearly 100 emails this Wednesday alone. This is just the first page of my spam folder. I am only going to open the ones that talk about being paid or something going wrong that's going to keep me from being paid. I'm not going to read your overly flattering offer to review your articulated dragon. I have work to do. I find my models the same way everyone else does, browsing model hosting sites while I take the Browns to the Super Bowl. I have a lot of these already, but I'm always collecting more. When I need a top 10 listicle, this is where I draw from. I also check the Show Your Projects channel on my Discord because I want to feature projects for my community, right? Like, this is really the only way you should ever pitch your work to a creator. We might pull stupid faces on our thumbnails, but we're not actually stupid. Like, we can tell when you're trying to mooch free publicity. If you want to be found, be findable on the communities we try to serve by serving those communities. But we've reached the first subwolf of the second wolf. The people who don't just want to make your thing, they want people to make it better. And our first wolf of that second wolf means that in the strictest sense, right? Like, this is the type of person who wants others to take the work, which is already good enough, but improve it so thoroughly your version becomes obsolete. There's not a lot of advice I can give you here because you're already based as heck. Recognizing that no one is more talented than everyone is really awesome, right? Nobody can ever get enough life experience to definitively say that their way is better or worse, the best. Too many people take capitalism too seriously and fixate on money and clout even when it would make the work actively worse. My only actionable tip is so incredibly stupid, I can't believe I have to say it at all. But people forget it all the time. You have to share your design files. If you want people to modify your model, you can't just share the STLs. You have to share files meant to be edited. STLs can be imported and modified, but it's a real mess. Like, share a step file at the very least, but ideally share the original editable file you built it from. And of course, remember to use a remix-friendly license. Speaking of, the real advice here is philosophical. Right? Not enough people realize that Creative Commons and GPL, the most common remix-friendly licenses, are not free open source, right? CC share alike and GPL force derivatives to also be open source, which sometimes people can't do, right? CC non-commercial bans commercial use, so anyone with a financial incentive to improve your design won't. And even CC BY, right? CC attribution. The only requirement is giving you credit. That still adds a burden to potential hackers. Like, even if it's only a link in the description, or if it's searching for something like, what'd your remix is from? Many makers won't write a description. Many makers will straight up decide not to mod your thing if they have to do work. Hoping people improve your stuff is already asking a tremendous amount of the world, right? The easier your stuff is to mod, the more people will do it. I gave Gridfinity the MIT license, which basically lets anyone do anything with the models, like even sell them, right? Even scratch my name off of it. You don't even have to thank me. In my opinion, this is why modern Gridfinity is so good, right? Like, new versions are completely detached from anything I made. And no matter what incentives a given maker has, Gridfinity can provide it. I don't actually think the Zen Koan here is relevant, but I really like it. And I got to find a real nerdy font for it. This means if you're the last wolf, the wolf so ambitious you can't merely make a popular project, you want the entire world to spring up just to revolve around you, your game is rigged from the start. You know how many people have taken perfectly good standalone projects and shattered them into a million pieces, hoping an empire spontaneously springs up to take them and run? I don't. Those projects fail. And worse, the makers who make them often fail as well because they keep over-investing time and effort into the same project instead of moving on to something more exciting. Do you want to know how I avoided this with Gridfinity? I didn't. At no point throughout the entire development process did I ever expect anyone would make their own Gridfinity. In fact, I figured it was such a long shot. I figured it was a long shot that anyone would even print what I've made. Gridfinity was basically a throwaway project, right? Like, I designed the window bin and base plate for a wall-mounted parts organizer. I just got so carried away making all these stupid tool holders that I was about to run out the deadline on a sponsor. So I cleaned it up for an April Fool's video, Then I got distracted again, so I posted 12 days. Yeah, it was supposed to be a joke. I mean, it ended with a guest appearance from time-traveling gentleman Zack. The thought of thousands of people adopting Gridfinity, many of whom had never designed anything at all, was literally unbelievable. But clearly it was possible, and I have a fairly good idea of what it takes for a project to become an ecosystem. It won't be easy, but it's obviously possible. I want to be clear, this is not advice that I followed when I made Gridfinity. It's pure 2020 hindsight. I will say I did try to rerun the playbook for my modular board game Hextraction, which I did design specifically to be modded. It did get a few hundred derivatives, including vastly superior versions of all my original designs. But it wasn't an order of magnitude as popular as Gridfinity. I don't know how much of this is because, Lightning just wouldn't go back in the bottle, and how much is just more people need storage systems than board games. Although this is relevant, right? You got to remember network effects. Network effects are in play if you're trying to build an ecosystem. Normal things grow in a linear way, right? Each extra person's one extra person. But ecosystems grow exponentially, right? They die exponentially as well. When network effects are in play, imperceptibly tiny problems and opportunities get multiplied and multiplied and multiplied into massive ripples that can make a project erupt or doom it the instant the first person sees it. Suppose you got a normal project and 10 people make it. Then you nab one more. You now have 11 people making your project. Sure, any of them could remix it and share it, right? But the odds are slim, and there's only so much one person can do. The interest also peters out over time because once someone prints the thing, they're pretty unlikely to print another one, even if it's better. However, suppose it's an ecosystem with network effects. It's got 5 elements and 10 users, right? Let's say we add one more user. That person now wants to download 5 models, right? It boosts all of them. But they're also incentivized to make accessories, right? Because it would make what they've got even better. Those accessories make the system more interesting for similar people who didn't previously have a reason to get involved. Those people now have 6 things to download, and they might make even more accessories, bring in more people, keeping it fresh for existing users, bring in more users, boosting every model that's ever been created even higher. Casual browsers are now seeing compatible models all over their feeds, and people are talking about it all over their feeds, right? New user or existing users keep going back to check for content, so it rises up in search ratings. Many people will now download it just to see what's going on that their bandwagon. Many people are also now going to create accessories who wouldn't have done it before because they know people are downloading them. It bugs the heck out of me when people say exponential to mean like a lot, right? Like it has a meaning. When something grows exponentially, each bit of growth also grows all the previous growth. Even a tiny bit of friction is going to be multiplied and multiplied into massive losses. Everything I said in all previous sections applies here 100-fold and has to be taken to like the next Pokemon evolution, right? You need to figure out every single reason somebody might not download your model and not only solve it, make it not even apply. Every lost fraction of a percentage point of people who want to download it, people who want to search for it, people who want to mod it, can cripple the project. Normal projects need a descriptive title. Ecosystems need an iconic title, right? They need one that does all the same stuff, but with a brand name that's memorable, easy to spell, and most importantly, searchable. I don't mean barely anyone uses it. I mean no one uses it, at least on the model host. You're creating a key. Remember, like if you're making an ecosystem, people are going to search this brand name, this keyword, to find all the compatible accessories and to filter out everything else. Tags aren't good enough. Most people don't use them. Again, every extra bit of work is something people won't do. I didn't realize how powerful the Gridfinity name was until I got called out in a video by the maker of Gridfinity's predecessor. He picked a much less spellable, searchable name, and I believe there might actually have been a Gridfinity item that had that name at the time. Normal projects will get downloads simply if people who would appreciate them can find them. But if you want an ecosystem, you must fill a need, and that need needs to be as close to universal as you can get. For all intensive purposes, every person who sees the baseline project should be able to imagine themselves using it. You got to hit everyone. if people are waiting for an accessory that doesn't exist yet, they'll keep waiting. Like, that's what you got to do. You can make niche ecosystems, right? Like, that is what Gridfinity is. But the niche has to be a big one, and you've got to capture as much of it as possible. For a normal project, getting featured by a prominent creator can be a huge tailwind. It make you feel real good. But if you want to jumpstart an ecosystem, big name PR is effectively mandatory. Your thing needs to be something that they must cover, even if they don't want to, because people just keep asking for it over and over and over again, just to make the comment stop. Remember, network effects mean every user it appeals to makes it more appealing for other users. Ecosystems are path dependent. Imagine 100 people going to a club one by one. They all leave because they're alone in the dance floor. But if 100 people come all at once, it's going to be a party before the doors even open. You need blasts of users coming in at the same time, which can't really be done without a singular event that brings in a ton of people. This creates a paradox. If you want creators and curators to send you a user base to make your ecosystem, you need an ecosystem for them to show those people. Network effects apply to the creators too. This means you need to personally create the entire ecosystem yourself, enough to hook a huge number of people before you put it out there. I launched Gridfinity with like 50 different tool holders, 50 different divider boxes, and dozens of base plates and mounting brackets, and I've added a dozen more since. Remember, I got carried away. It's the whole reason this thing exists. This wasn't the plan, and it was me getting distracted from a better plan. Like, I had to jam out a video to meet a deadline. More than one maker has tried to popularize a standard in the hopes other people will do the work of implementing it for them. That's not how this works. Network effects mean the more components people see, the more they create. The more people use it, the more people want to use it. You have to be the whole ecosystem yourself till the whole thing is active enough to walk on its own. Yes, you could bring in some friends, but the point is, you can't count on a community springing up. You have to force it into existence by making the whole thing yourself. By think of the guy wearing all the hats in Avatar, right? Like, you gotta be that guy. It's not fake it till you make it. It's do everything until others expand the definition of everything. Remember, you have to make a project free if you want to get remixes, right? Like, ideally free as in speech, but free as in beer can also work. But when we're talking about an ecosystem, the level of freedom you need becomes utterly radical, right? Not just can be modified, trivial to modify. Not just free as in freedom. Free as in free from you. Let's start with radical modability. Your developer base has to include people so burnt out, so overdrawn, and so inexperienced, they can't decide between two identical models on Yegi. Network effects are utterly unforgiving. The normal fraction of a % of savvy users who go on to contribute is not enough. You need a project anyone can mod, even people who've never used CAD, even people who can't spell CAD. This right here is the secret sauce of any successful ecosystem, the template. No matter how many specs you release, no matter how many dimensions you diagram, nearly every compatible accessory is going to be an existing accessory with a bunch of stuff bolted onto it. I made a lot of mistakes with Gridfinity, but this was not one of them. This blank template file, the parametric thing broke a lot. See all that red? I guess you can't see the red stuff at the bottom. It's there. There's a lot of stuff wrong with this project, but having something very easy for people to mod ended up being, ended up making it work. Still, Gridfinity didn't truly take off until other makers released generators for Fusion and OpenSCAD that cranked out template files, right? Nearly every Gridfinity item today is based on a remix of an upload of a template from a generator made by tools based on a spec sheet on a website. And I didn't make any of that. I might have contributed like 150 models. I might have bootstrapped it through a video that took a month to make. But the point is, nowadays Gridfinity basically no longer contains a single triangle with my fingerprints on it. And because I chose the MIT license, it doesn't even require anyone to credit me. So if Gridfinity keeps existing, it's only a matter of time before my involvement is utterly forgotten. So yeah, I've become an afterthought in my own project, and my original video is now more confusing than helpful. I might have made Gridfinity, but that's a hollow statement. The 3D printing community made Gridfinity. Am I salty about this? Like, do I regret passing up so much? Heck no. Gridfinity achieved, in my opinion, the highest, purest form of victory a project possibly can, right? It's become so widely copied, so thoroughly improved, so frequently remixed. Its uncountable user base, many of which only started printing just to print some Gridfinity, have no reason to care where it came from. And that rules. I'm no longer really involved with Gridfinity because I have nothing to offer it. It's moved beyond me. It might even outlive me. And I can't think of anything that could feel better than that. Like, no amount of money or clout could approximate this feeling. I am so proud of what the Gridfinity community has created. I'm never going to make anything like it again, but I'm also not going to stop trying, right? Like, I'm going to keep building projects. I'm going to keep sharing my projects. I'm going to keep featuring awesome projects that you've made that I think deserve to be seen. So keep making the stuff that fires you up, keep sharing those makes, and don't let false promises of passive income and building a reputation distract you into hustling all the fun out of life. If there's anything you can take away from this, it's you will succeed if you can preserve that sheer intrinsic joy of making things and chasing that. It's hard to put into words, but like just chasing that dynamic of seeing your work make someone else's life just a little bit better. And that's my PowerPoint. Let's see if we got any time for questions. Mods, we have time for questions. Yeah? Oh, we do? Because my timer says exactly 45 minutes. All right, cool. Question time. Yes, I'm only going to answer questions related to this talk. Like, if you have an unrelated question or something else to say, I'm going to be like doing a little meet and greet afterwards. So I want to keep it on topic. Who's up first? Yes. Why did I choose 42 millimeters? Excellent question. First, 50 is the obvious choice. I deliberately avoided choosing 50 because I wanted to make my system materially distinct from Alexander Chappell's, at the time it was called the assortment box. On top of that, 42 has a lot of factors. It's very easy to divide into different sizes. And it works in the opposite direction too. It's very likely a Gridfinity plate will fit something you put it in because it's very likely that thing will share factors with 42. The fact that it's the answer to life, the universe, and everything is also there, although I didn't realize that till afterwards. The other reason, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this in the video, is because the first thing I designed was the window bin. It was going to be like this wall-mounted thing, and 42 millimeters just looked really nice with a 3-inch microscope slide. I was going to use them as windows. So yeah, bunch of reasons. We have another question.
So you said you got a lot of things wrong. What percent of things you got wrong?
So what did I do wrong when I made Gridfinity? How do I even describe it? Where do you even start? Okay, the divider boxes are not really parametric. There are like 8 different things you have to suppress and unsuppress to like get different numbers to like put the label in the right place. It tries to print a circle over open air and droops. The whole circle thing was unnecessary anyways. I thought people would use screws because they wouldn't want to buy magnets, but turns out on Amazon, magnets are cheaper than screws. Oh man, what else? The original, let's see, the divider bins and the templates have tons of errors. The template file isn't actually parametric. If you scale it down, it will break but work. If you scale it up, it won't work. What else? My original bin release, I forgot to put the magnet holes in one size. 2 of the sizes were actually the same. One of them didn't have a label. One of them didn't have a scoop. Yeah. I could go on. I could make a whole video about just the things I screwed up with it. Remember, like, the project was designed sloppily, and I didn't expect it to be under a lot of scrutiny. Again, put your stuff out there. Like, that's what I did. Okay, do we have another question? In the back. Oh, one more question? All right. Yes. Ooh, why hasn't my stuff been mass produced, especially overseas? This is a really interesting question. You don't see very many 3D printed objects being mass produced in general, because injection molding and other mass production processes require models to be designed differently than 3D printing. You can't just take a 3D printed model and you can't just take a 3D printed model and just make an injection mold out of it. You need to redesign it from the ground up. And I think if people are going ahead and doing that, they're picking stuff that's going to have a higher margin than like plastic boxes. That said, there are a lot of companies selling Gridfinity things on Amazon, eBay. There are a number of overseas print farms cranking them out and selling them cheap. And that's you're allowed to. Like I designed it for that. Like again, if you're making something free, you have to give people the freedom to sell it. You have to give people the freedom to cut you out of it. You have to give people the freedom to make it not free. And I think that really does make a huge difference. As weird as it sounds, I think I benefited more from Gridfinity from making it so free than otherwise. I believe this is the end of the line. Thank you, everyone, for showing up to my show. I hope everyone has a great ERMR 2026. Death Racers tomorrow, 11 o'clock. I finally figured out how to drive my car. The Grid Reaper will rise again.